How are we doing, guys? USMNT Top 10 is back. The last day that it will be on Monday. We'll be back to Sunday, this coming Sunday, because my play will be finished. The reason that's why it's been moved to Monday is because I usually had work finishing up the play that I was in, but we close on Saturday. It's our last day. So we'll be back to Sunday. Lots to talk about, guys. The top 10, it was a very, very good week, as always. Even guys who don't make the top 10 this week still had really strong performances. It's a very, very encouraging week. And, there's a few other things to talk about. The Gio Reyna transfer saga continues to rumble on. How are we doing? Rogelio, BMR, Kevin, how we doing, guys? No more vaping, right? Nope. Vaping has successfully been quit. So that's been good. As always, this Reyna situation is not simple and easy. Yeah, we'll probably talk a little bit about that at the end of the stream. Rogelio, I'm doing good. Raul Baron says Vazquez is number 2 for me, or 3 at worst. Balogun is overrated. Raul, you might be overrating a few Liga MX goals there. We have a tendency in American soccer sometimes to whoever scored the most recent goal is our number 1. Doesn't even matter the level. I think we have to be a little more broad, have broader perspective than that. Unknown Revival. I don't think I've seen that name before. Hey, Pete. What's the rage? Hey, Pete. What's going on? How are you guys? Sorry, no stepsister tutorials here. That is strictly the straight red card territory. Who do you think is better, Weston or Rodrigo de Paul? I think McKennie is better because every time he has the ball, he gives anxiety like Gallagher from Chelsea. So if he gives you anxiety, why would you say he's better? Hey, USA expat, how you doing? Balo is not overrated, and Vazquez is just mid. That's bias at its finest. Thank you for the reasonable take there, Miles. Tyler, what's good, Pete? Hope your Monday is going well. It's not bad. It's not bad. We had a bit of a rough weekend, but it's looking better now. All right, before we dive into the top 10, hey, Isaac, how you doing? Let's have a quick word from our sponsor.
Fantasy Sports is back with a new and improved pick'em game across all sports that makes it easy to play fantasy sports with just a few clicks. Each sport allows you to build a parlay that includes between 2 and 5 predictions about the outcomes of player projections. As you would expect, the more picks you include, the greater the potential payout. Don't go crazy with it and play responsibly, but adding a few bucks here and there to a game gives it a little more excitement and stakes. Use my promo code 11yanks or click the link in the description to start playing, and Underdog will match whatever you put in your account up to $100. Enjoy!
All right. Thank you to Underdog. Interesting question here from Unknown Revival. Pete, you making bank on Underdog Fantasy? I made $30 the other day. I put $10 down, so I made 20 technically. I put $10 down. I only had 3 guys. One of them didn't count because he didn't start. But it doesn't. You'll still get the full parlay if they meet the stats. Their addition just won't count. So I would have gotten 74 if he had started. But I ended up making. So I made $20 off of a little game, which wasn't bad. So yeah, Gabriel, how you doing? Technicality. So Winelkai says, I meant to say DePaul is the one who gives me anxiety and also is the guy Tack hates when he plays against Brazil. It's a slightly different profile. DePaul, for me, is more of a 6, more of a tough tackling midfielder, and McKennie has elements of that, certainly, but I think, McKennie's more of a box-to-box midfielder. An 8, he's a little more, he sets up a little more, specifically with his long-range passing. So, yeah. Rogelio says, need to make them bucks, though, there. Haven't started. Haven't started. Use my link when you do, Rogelio. Use my link. It helps the channel. Or just use my code. But the link's in the description below. What's your Sabbi opinion? I'm going to talk a little bit about Sabbi. Fumar Mota says, Pete, explain key pass versus assist for U.S. soccer neophytes. What's a neophyte? I'm really outing myself as not too bright with that question, aren't I? Okay. So first up on the list is Marlon Fossey, who scored a goal for Standard Liège in their 1-1 draw versus Cercle Brugge. He played 90 minutes, scored 1 goal. I mean, look at his long ball stats, was not great, but he did draw 2 fouls. Won about half of his ground duels there and not many of his aerial duels. This was the goal that Marlon Fossey scored. It was off of a corner and it was flicked on, and he was right in front of the goal. And he basically headed it off the underside of the post, and then it popped down to make it 1-1 to equalize. Well, actually, no, it was 1-0. Circle Brugge equalized later. Neophyte is a new person on a subject, says Kevin. Got it. Yeah, and then he does the entire flip. By the way, all of these clips are already on Patreon for all you Patreon fans in the chat. All these clips are already on Patreon, the full goals and highlights and everything. But yeah, what's interesting to me about Marlon Fossey is, look, he's not in our top 2 right backs. But after Sergino Dest and Joe Scally, who are the 2 next best options? You're talking probably Brian Reynolds should be 3rd. And then after that, there's question marks. I think Marlon Fossey should absolutely be in the mix, right? Of course, we've got Greg out here saying that Shaq Moore should be here, getting ready to replace Dest for a Nations League. Meanwhile, we won't even give a look to Marlon Fossey, who's been very consistent in the Belgian league, right? Sure, he only has 1 goal and 2 assists this year, but he's a right back. Goal scoring and assisting is not his primary responsibility. His defensive stats are actually very, very good. And what I think is very interesting is in 19 games this season, he doesn't have a single yellow or red card. And why is that interesting? Because typically, right backs, fullbacks in general tend to get isolated the most because they play out wide, isolated defensively. And so oftentimes they tend to pick up yellow cards and red cards more. He doesn't have a single one, which speaks to his defensive ability and not getting beat and not having to commit silly fouls. Let's see. No Shaq Moore, please. Not Moore, says Jay Lewis. Chris Johnson, Shaq Moore is coming, can see it a mile away. Tyler says Yedlin. Oh, God. Okay, who would you guys in the chat prefer? Of the MLS right backs, all right? These are the ones that, you could potentially bring in. Let's say there's Nathan Harriel, Shaq Moore, DeAndre Yedlin, and Griffin Dorsey, and Brooks Lennon. Those are the 5 MLS right backs. If you had to pick one, who would you pick? Tyler goes none. DeJuan Jones. Yeah, actually, DeJuan Jones probably makes the most sense. That's a good shout there, BMR. If you're going to go, well, because he's not a right back, Winel Kai. He's a left back. So that's why I know Caleb Wiley. But yeah, DeJuan Jones probably makes the most sense. But the truth is, we should probably be giving a look to Marlon Fossey at some point, even if it's, in a friendly. So that's number 10 on the list. Number 9 is Gabriel Slonina, and I want to have words about Gabriel Slonina. He did make Team of the Week, as you can see. Played 90 minutes, according to FOTMob, and you have to be very careful with FOTMob, guys. According to FOTMob, he made 3 saves, and 2 of them were diving saves. Okay. He also made 2 high claims, 17 out of 32 accurate passes, 4 out of 19 accurate long balls. So what this really means is all of his short passing was good, or at least he completed all of his short passes. And then, long passes, very few, right? I go and watch Gabriel Slonina's games. Now, look, a lot of people don't watch Gabriel Slonina, and I understand why. It's not easy to find those games. You have to get an aid stream, right? And it's not on ESPN Plus, so you can't really watch him. So I think people look at FOTMob sometimes and go, "Oh, Gabriel Slonina is doing very well. He should start for us." This is what I've been hearing a lot more recently: is just give the job to Gabriel Slonina. Gabriel Slonina is not ready, guys. I have Y Scout, right? So thank you, Patreon subscribers, for helping with that. I watch all of his involvements in pretty much every game. Okay. And what I see is a Gabriel Slonina who is getting some good experience over there in Belgium, but is still very shaky. He still has a little bit of a deer in headlights sort of, demeanor. He looks scared. He looks nervous. And that's understandable. He's 19 years old, right? Playing at a professional level. And that's still impressive. And he certainly has some very good moments. And I hope that he continues to grow and develop. But to say he should start right now over Matt Turner, who's also struggling, and I understand why people are becoming disenchanted with Matt Turner. He's been quite poor for the last few months now. I just don't think putting Gabriel Slonina in goal in a competitive game is a good idea, particularly not in Nations League. Now, look, after Copa America, if we want to experiment in some friendlies, that's one thing. But people are saying, start him against Jamaica. No, guys. He is still very shaky. On the ball, he's quite shaky. Some of his goal kicks they go out of the field altogether. He still has a tendency to drop balls at times. He doesn't look confident, and he's 19 years old. I don't expect him necessarily to look confident. So, that might bring us to the discussion of, oh, well, who else is there? But let's talk real quick about Gabriel Slonina. I watched, there were not 3 saves. There was 1 save. This was supposedly one of the saves that he made. And to be fair, he did the right thing. He came off his line here on the cross and dove at the striker's feet. He didn't touch the striker, but he also didn't touch the ball. He put the striker off, and the striker missed completely. And the referee pointed to a goal kick. Okay. So the other save that was supposedly a diving save was a very tame shot from distance that literally, he didn't dive. He got down on one knee and it rolled into his arms. He scooped it up. So you have to be a little bit careful with believing FOTMob. I watched all of his, actually I thought his, short passing was pretty good in this game. He didn't really have much to do. And guys, he's in contention to start in the Olympics along with Chris Brady and Patrick Schulte. Those are the 3 who should be fighting for the number 1 spot in the Olympics. But I cannot jump on board right now with the Gabriel Slonina should start for us. I think he's making progress, and we'll see how he develops, but he's just not ready. Number 8, Gianluca Busio, who's kind of hitting a purple patch of form here. He had the winning goal for Venezia in their 1-0 win over Ternana as they continue to try to push up for a promotion to Serie A. Had 1 goal, 2 chances created, 4 passes into the final third, 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 1 accurate crosses, 1 out of 2 ground duels, and drew 2 fouls. Here's the problem with his goal. Nobody got to see it because the fog was so thick on the field that nobody got to see the goal. I checked the highlights. I checked Y-Scout. There's no way to see what happened. So good for him. It probably was a good goal. It was the winning goal, so you're going to make team of the week. But there is there's no clip anywhere that shows me the goal that isn't completely covered over with fog. But good for him. Let's see if him and Tessman also had a pretty good game. Let's see if they make it back into Serie A next year. Let's talk Emmanuel Sabbi. Scored his 4th goal in 4 games for Le Havre. This one was against Lorient in their 3-3 draw. He played only 56 minutes, and his goal was a penalty. He was also not very good the rest of the game. He drew 1 foul, had 2 passes into the final third, won about half his ground duels, none of his aerial duels. Look, I don't think Emmanuel Sabbi, guys, is a very good player. He's 25, 26 years old now. I'm glad he's getting his opportunity, and he does seem to be getting in some good goal-scoring positions. Would I hate it if he got called in, say, over a Brendan Aronson? No. But I'm also not going to start jumping on the Sabbi hype train. I think we have a tendency to do this. Somebody gets a few goals and we're like, maybe he's the guy. It's like, well, the larger data set over his time in Scandinavia tells us that he's really not the guy. And that we can be happy for him and maybe even give him a call up here and there. Long term, I don't think Sabbi is going to make us any better. That's just my honest opinion. And I'm glad he's having a good sort of purple patch in France. Let's see how long it lasts. This was the penalty, decent penalty. Goalkeeper went the wrong way. And he was subbed out at the 56th minute. So, yeah, again, it's like, look, if you're performing in a top 5 league, you probably deserve a look. I'm just not getting hyped about Sabbi. I should probably watch more of him, to be honest, because admittedly, my data on Sabbi is not great. I watched 1 game. Even the game that he scored, I wasn't too impressed with him outside the goal. I just don't think he's got the factor, to be a consistent top 5 league player. But good for him. And again, if we call him up for the Jamaica game over Brendan Aronson, probably won't hate that. Aronson's definitely better defensively, though. So maybe we wait until after Copa America to give him a look. I don't know. Or maybe if Kevin Paredes go, I don't know. I don't know, guys. Like, I don't have strong feelings about Sabbi. If Greg calls him up, I'd be fine with it. If he doesn't call him up, I'm not going to be, losing my shit about it. Okay. How do you feel about CCV resigning with Celtics? Honestly, I feel similarly to Miles Robinson staying in MLS. I'm disappointed that CCV is not trying to push himself. Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it. Now, admittedly, he's pushing himself for a much better club than any MLS club, or at least he's re-signing with a club that's. But if you want to be pushing for a starting spot with the USMNT, which he should be in that range, like who's going to partner Richards in the long term, right? That's because Tim Ream, how much longer is he going to last? Probably after Copa America, it's time to move on from Tim Ream, right? Who's going to partner Chris Richards long term? Austin Trusty maybe has a shot. CCV is certainly one of the front runners, but is staying in the Scottish League the best thing for his development? I don't think so. And I'm a little disappointed that he's choosing to stay there because, maybe he wasn't going to leave right now, but he could not re-sign and then in the summer get a move, right? So I'm a little bit disappointed the same way that I am that Miles Robinson didn't try to push himself. The difference is Miles Robinson has very little actual ability, whereas CCV does. And he isn't really going to be pushed in Scotland. 2 Rangers games a year and then 6 Champions League games where they're going to get thrashed are the only games that he's really going to be tested in. And that's the truth. Johnny Cardoso, probably the only really good transfer of January so far. Played 90 minutes versus Real Mallorca after a very impressive debut against Barcelona. He did not get 1 assist. That's my bad. I forgot to delete that. I use templates and then sometimes things get missed. He did not get an assist. Let me be very clear for the YouTube commenters who are going to be, there was no assist. At least get your facts straight, bro. 90% passing accuracy, 3 passes into the final third, 3 out of 4 accurate long balls, 3 out of 5 ground duels won. All of his aerial duels won more aerial duels than anybody on the field. 1 block, 5 clearances, 2 interceptions, and 5 recoveries. Watching him adapt so quickly to La Liga from the Brasileirão has been really, really good to see. And unlike some of our other 6 options, he's good on the ball. But either way, if we have Adams, Musa, and Johnny all available to play the 6, then that's really good to see. And I think he's going to thrive there. He's still just 22. So I think he's going to be a great top 5 league midfielder. It's early days, but he's composed. He reads the game well. His positioning is generally strong. He isn't particularly incisive with his passing, and I would like him to try to be a little bit more risky with some of his passing range. But I'd say the early signs are very, 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 very promising for Johnny Cardoso. Number 5, Joe Scally was part of a Mönchengladbach back line that kept a clean sheet against league leaders Bayer Leverkusen. Played 90 minutes, got the clean sheet. They got a 0-0 draw in that game. 87% passing accuracy, 1 block, 6 clearances, 3 headed clearances, 3 recoveries, 2 fouls committed. Won 3 out of 7 ground duels and 0 out of 1 aerial duels. He was not a standout performer by any means, but certainly part of a back 3 that kept the number 1 Bundesliga team quiet is impressive. So good for Joe. Luca de la Torre is having a, similar to Brandan Vazquez, is having a bit of a goal-scoring glut at the moment. He only played 45 minutes against Real Sociedad in the Copa del Rey, but he scored a last-minute goal. He also ignore these stats. Some of these stats are from a different. Ignore the stats. Look at the goal. That's the goal. Nice little. It bounced off the defender, and he was on hand to score it after a really nice goal that he scored last week against Valencia and had a really nice assist against Valencia. One of my criticisms of Luca de la Torre is that he isn't productive enough in front of goal. Right, that too often he plays the safe pass, and it's good to see him actually, building up some goal numbers. I think this is his best ever season so far in terms of goal numbers because he was not very goal dangerous in the Netherlands. Last year, I don't think he got more than 2 or 3. But in this one, this year he's got 6 goal contributions already. And yes, some of them are in Copa del Rey, but they were all against La Liga teams. So I put that on Twitter. Some were like, oh, that wasn't La Liga, it was against Copa del Rey. Yes, it was in a knockout competition against other similar quality teams. So yes, it's still impressive. And will he make it in the roster by 2026? I don't know. But it's good to see him thriving for Celta Vigo. What he needs to do is become a consistent. He is pretty much a consistent starter, but become a locked-in starter. Be like one of the first names on the team sheet. So that's good. Good to see. Sergino Dest against Almer City played 90 minutes, got the clean sheet, got 1 assist, 4 out of 5 successful dribbles, which was the match high, 2 out of 3 accurate crosses, 5 passes into the final third. He had a very good. He was very involved in the attack in this game, and all the clips from his involvements are on Patreon. 6 out of 11 ground duels won, 0 out of 2 aerial duels won. This was the cross for the assist, the opening goal against Luc de Jong. Nice with his left foot. Whee! And then Luc de Jong did well to finish it smartly with his left foot to keep Pepe off the field. It's exciting to see that Dest is doing so well in the attack in Eredivisie. And, now that Xavi is leaving Barcelona, there's some questions. People are thinking, well, should he go back to Barca? I'll be honest, guys, I don't think he's quite Barcelona level material, particularly defensively. And I think, it's one thing to do really well in the Eredivisie, and I'm happy for him. And this certainly seems like a good, project restart for Dest. I just don't know if he's really a Barcelona level player, but maybe he could find another team in La Liga, honestly, like a Sociedad or a, Betis or a Girona. Like, I think there are lots of teams in La Liga where he could thrive. And I think that would suit him. It's a very technical league. They do like technical players. I just don't know if Barcelona, with the pressure that you're under and, sometimes his lapses in concentration, are a defensive liability. That's just the truth. I would like La Liga for Dest. In fact, I would like more of our technical players to go to La Liga. If Gio Reyna ends up leaving Dortmund in January, I think La Liga is the best place. La Liga and Serie A would be the 2 best places for Reyna. And I know for a fact that Dest does not want to stay at PSV Eindhoven another year. This was a restart for him, but he believes, and I agree with him, that he can play in a top 5 league. It's just about finding the right club in the right league. Number 2 is Kevin Paredes. I was getting a little worried about Kevin because it felt like he was starting to stagnate a little bit this year. Yes, he had the 1 goal, but he wasn't getting starts. He was these nagging little injuries that were keeping him off the field, and he wasn't really impacting the game that you would want him to when he would come off the bench. He did start, however, on the weekend against FC Köln in their 1-1 draw, and he got not only the equalizing goal, but he had a very, very good game. He drew 5 fouls. His dribbles were not so successful, but did win 2 out of 2 tackles, 8 out of 14 ground duels, 1 out of 1 aerial duels. What I liked the most from Kevin Paredes, though, this week was that he didn't fall over. It appears, 1 game, so early days, but it appears that his balance is getting a little better, particularly when he's running at full speed. Caused 2 yellow cards, said BMR. Yes, opponents were fouling him, and he almost had a goal. He hit the post in the late, I think very late on in the game, he hit the post, but it was also a goal that he helped to create. The ball comes to him in midfield, and he had a volleyed through ball for his teammate. Literally, the ball was in the air, and he volleyed it into his path. Then he continued his run into the box, and on the cross, hit the post. And he also created another chance early on in the first half with a very good touch in the box. Did it go off the keeper, BMR? Maybe you're right. Maybe it did. But he had a very strong game, and that was the first time he's played 90 minutes for Wolfsburg ever. So hopefully that is the start of more to come from Kevin Paredes, where he can consistently be a starter and consistently be dangerous and a contributor. He is still very, very young. But Kevin Paredes, very impressive. That's why he's as high up as he is. Now, normally, that's the goal. Not an amazing goal by any means, but a good run to the far post. Good timing of his run to stay onside, and good finish. Now, normally a Liga MX player will not win, top 10 of the week. But if you score 3 goals in your first 2 games in your new club at a club like Monterrey, which is, there is a lot of pressure at Monterrey to perform, and 6.5 million is not a small amount of money by any means. But Brandan Vazquez is taking to Liga MX like a fish to water. Had the goal against Querétaro. Okay, the cross comes in and he heads it very nicely, and then had a brace against San Luis. So a very, very good start for him at Monterrey. Remember, he had 7 goals in MLS last year. 7 in the whole season. So he's already almost halfway there in Liga MX, which is a tougher league, but not by much. I'd say the gap between Liga MX and MLS now is quite close. I still think Liga MX is a little better, mostly because there's real consequences in Liga MX, unlike MLS, and also the distribution of quality throughout rosters is a little bit higher. But this was the first goal that he scored against Querétaro. Good header. Not sure why the center backs didn't jump with him. Then this was the best goal. This actually came from the left-hand side of the field. Good cross, but he was running diagonally away from goal, and then he deflected the header. He deflected the header over the goalkeeper in the other direction. It just kissed the inside of the post, and boom, that made it 1-0. And then about 15 minutes later, a good finish. He was found in the channel. He had some space, opened up his body, and bam, that made it. I think they ended up winning this game 3-1. Alexander Mantooth says Liga MX is not better. MLS dominated in Leagues Cup. Leagues Cup is not a good indication of the quality because it was all played in the US, right? The only way we can really judge MLS versus Liga MX is in CCL because they play home and away. Okay, and whether or not Liga MX cared that much about results in Leagues Cup, you can't really use Leagues Cup as a good measuring stick for quality. You have to use competitions where there's, proper home and away advantage. So I don't really use that. And reality is MLS has won only one CCL in the last 20 years. They're getting close, right? And they're usually there or thereabouts. They're in the final, they're in the semifinal. It is getting close. But right now, Liga MX just has the edge. And when I'm talking about pressure, I'm not just talking about relegation. I'm talking about the way that the media covers them, the way that there is pressure from the fans, from the media if you don't perform. So it's not just about promotion relegation. I do think that it's more about, like, if you go to Monterrey and you suck, the media is going to write terrible things about you. The fans will turn on you. So there is more pressure in Liga MX, even though the actual quality of the league, I agree, is quite close to MLS. James McCormick is saying that he's going to file a one-time switch. He can't file a one-time switch, James. He's already cap tied to the U.S. He played for us in the Gold Cup, remember? So he can't. It's over. Mexico can't recruit him now. He has like 7, 8 caps, I think. Let me double check the exact amount, but I'm pretty sure he has like 7, 8. And he played in competitive games. Once you play in competitive games, it's over. So he's definitely cap tied. Yeah, he's got 8 caps for the U.S. and he played in the Gold Cup, so he's definitely cap tied. So there's no risk of losing him to Mexico. But the truth is, for me, Brandan Vazquez is there with Haji Wright or Jordan Pefok fighting for the 4th place spot in our striker pool. Because for me, it's Balogun, Pepe, and Sargent, and then everybody else is fighting for 4th, right? So I hope he does well in Liga MX. Right, he really hasn't had. He's had only one real strong season in his entire career, and that was MLS season before last, not this last one. So yeah, it's just, good for him. I hope he has a great career over there, but he's probably not really in contention for the USMNT in a meaningful way. Maybe Gold Cups here and there. Where would Vazquez rank on L3 striker depth chart? Yeah, he wouldn't play for them either. I mean, obviously, they've got Santi Jimenez. They've got Raul Jimenez. They've got, what's his name? I'm thinking Fumar Mota, but that's the commenter here. What's his name? The F striker plays in Liga MX, Argentine dual nat who filed a one-time switch. Somebody in the chat. Henry Martin is also there. Yeah, Henry Martin is there. But they also have what's his name? Funes Mori. Thank you, judgmental deity. Funes Mori, Henry Martin, Raul Jimenez, and obviously Santi Jimenez are all good, would be ahead of him. So yeah, Funes Mori. Fumar Mota, you screwed me up with your name. But yeah, my tocayo Rogelio. Oh, new rumors that Paxton is getting a loan. Honestly, Paxton needs one, guys, because he hasn't really been playing much with Eintracht Frankfurt. So it'll be interesting to see where they loan him, probably to the second division, the 2 Bundesliga, maybe. By the way, speaking of the 2 Bundesliga, keep an eye on Maximilian Dietz. He's playing quite well for Greuther Fürth this year. Just turned 22, not really in the German depth chart at all, but as center backs go, we do need depth, particularly with the Olympic squad too. So don't sleep on him maybe getting an invite to the Olympics. And then once he's at the Olympics, then potentially, could be an option for us, not so much in Copa America, but going forward towards the 2026 World Cup, depending on how he continues to develop. Giovanni Reyna. So there's a new report out today from Bild, okay, which is generally a fairly, generally fairly reliable outlet in Germany. I'll just read the article here. Let me pull it up and we'll talk about it. Because I think it's, we have 3 days max before the transfer window closes. And so whether or not Gio gets a loan or a move outside of Borussia is the question mark. So let me try to pull this up here. All right. So, surprising Terzic statement about the transfer candidate. So this is translated from German by Google. So the grammar's not going to be perfect, but it gives us an idea of what they're trying to say. Was it his last appearance in the BVB jersey? In the 3-1 win against Bochum, Edin Terzic replaced Gio Reyna in the 66th minute. He brought Gio Reyna on in the 66th minute, is what they're saying, who, according to Bild information, is about to move abroad, Marseille or Nottingham. Disappointing that they're not considering that nobody's talking about Sevilla. The transfer window is open until Thursday, February 1st. The American's departure is expected to take place this week. But head coach Terzic surprised everyone at the press conference after the derby success with his statements about transfer candidate Reyna. When asked whether he would also plan to play with the midfielder next Friday in Heidenheim, February 2nd, the coach said, I expect him to be available to me on Friday. I haven't heard anything else. Gio is under contract. Gio is our player and did well when he came on today. Is Reyna staying after all? According to Bild information, the talks with Nottingham Forest or Marseille have not yet been completely convincing, both for Dortmund financially and for the US star in terms of sport. Nevertheless, all sides want to find an agreement because Reyna finally wants more playing time. A change should only be a matter of days. Sports director Sebastian Kehl explained yesterday to DAZN about possible transfers last week. Of course, we kept everything open in both directions. We first want to play this game well. He was talking about the game they played on the weekend. Then we will analyze and discuss the situation in more detail. Of course, there are a few mind games going on at the moment. Mind games means like transfer stuff. But nothing is final yet. Nothing is fixed yet. So, is Gio going to move? I don't know. It sounds like, to me, Terzic's comments were more throwaway comments. It does sound like they're working on a transfer, and I think it's best for all parties involved, or at least alone. And Terzic is kind of playing, just saying, I'm not even going to talk about that right now. As of right now, he's a Dortmund player because he doesn't want to get, the team to get sidetracked. But I think if I had to put money on it, I think Gio is going to go. I just don't know where he's going to go. It's going to be Marseille or Nottingham. I think if I had to bet between the two, more likely it will be Nottingham Forest, which I don't love for Gio for reasons that I've already articulated in Where Should Gio Go, the video that I put out last week. If anybody wants to go check that out, where I sort of discuss this in more detail. But the thing is, Gio played really well. Came off the bench in the 61st minute, had a really good game, almost had a goal, created several didn't create several chances on goal, but was very effective with the ball, driving forward with it, slipping players in behind. Oftentimes what he would do is he'd drive toward the box with the ball at his feet and then, slip in behind for the winger to then put the cross. But the crosses were always poor. But he was doing his job, which is to create attacking opportunities and dominate on the ball. And that's exactly what Gio does. So I don't know where he's going to go, and I don't know even 100% sure if he is going to go. There's some talk about Tack thinks, well, should he maybe stay another 4 months? For me, no. Because if he stays another 4 months, he's mostly going to be on the bench unless Terzic gets sacked. And at that point, there's no risk in going out on loan. I'll say that. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Is he gets benched on loan too? That's where he is right now. I think more likely than not, he's going to have more playing time and, contribute meaningfully to attacks and actually increase his transfer value in the summer. And if perchance, Terzic gets fired before the summer, then maybe he does sign a contract depending on who the new coach is and whether or not he considers Gio to be part of his plans. But yeah, we just have to wait and see, guys. 2-3 days. We'll find out by Thursday what's happening probably with Gio. If I had to put money on it, I would say it's probably going to be Nottingham Forest. Sevilla was a rumor, but it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of substance to that one, which is disappointing to me because I wanted him at Sevilla. But overall, guys, I still think he's probably going to end up going to Nottingham Forest, and then we'll see how he does there. I have question marks how he'll be used. Will he be used as a winger? They already have a very good 10 over at Nottingham Forest. So, yeah, we just have to wait and see what happens with Gio. If he goes to the French League, where can we stream games, says David Vandruff. It'll be on beIN Sports. If you have that, great. If not, it's on Fubo TV. If you don't have Fubo TV, it's a struggle. Hopefully Sevilla comes through. Yeah, I mean, La Liga or Serie A would be the two best options for me. I'm not convinced about the Prem for Gio. But, again, we just have to wait and see what happens. Maybe a loan to the Bundesliga 2 club. No, he's not Bundesliga 2. You're talking about Paxton Aronson, Frank, or are you talking about Gio? Because Gio is definitely not Bundesliga 2 level. To be honest, he is a Dortmund level player. Terzic just doesn't like him. He's a Dortmund level player. He's demonstrated that over and over and over again for years. He struggled a little bit with some injuries, and you can make some arguments about his defensive abilities. But Gio is absolutely a Dortmund level player. He is a Champions League club level player, and I will die on this hill. So let's see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Patreon fans, the full clips of all those performances are on Patreon already, so go check those out. $3 a month if anybody else wants to join. Thank you to Underdog for sponsoring this stream, and you guys have a great week.